Hey there! Welcome to Leathercraft with Kay Orton. I've been doing leathercraft most of my life. I learned leathercraft in 4-H when I was a kid. I've been a leathercraft leader for about 45 years now. I continue to learn leathercraft all the time through the Colorado Saddle Makers Association, where we have workshops and seminars that help teach us each year. You learn leathercraft from everybody that teaches you. Everyone does it a little bit different, and that's okay. Listen to everyone, how they teach you, and then use those techniques that work the best for you. There are a lot of tools around. Use the tools that you have, learn what you like, and then when you buy new tools, buy the tool that makes the impression that you want, and make sure it's a good quality tool so you're not wasting your time. I hope you enjoy leathercraft. And now I think it's time for us to get started. Today we're going to learn about carving in leathercraft. In 4-H, this is usually Unit 2, where you learn to carve leather. A couple of things that we're going to go over before we start learning how to carve is learning how to take care of some of our tools. One of the first things we're going to learn about is a swivel knife. This is a swivel knife. A lot of kids use about this size of a swivel knife, and we're going to keep the blade nice and polished and sharp. So in order to do that, we use what we call jeweler's rouge, and we're going to put it on a card like this. This is like cardstock, and here's some jeweler's rouge, and we just color on it kind of like this. You can see that it's the white is coming off. Now jeweler's rouge can come in green or purple. There's different colors of it, and each has a little different kind of purpose, but each one of them will do for leathercraft, keeping your blade nice and smooth. Okay, so we put some on a cardstock, or else you could also put it on some leather. And then how you would use it is you would take your blade and see, you can see how it's sharpened, and that angle that it's sharpened on, you'll want to put it in your hand this way, like this, and just pull back on it. As you can see, this is a metal blade, and a little bit of metal is coming off, and that's what polishes it and then makes it nice and smooth. And so about 10 times on this side, then you're going to switch it over, and about 10 times on this side. Okay, I'm not counting, so I lost count. Anyway, looks about right. Pretty soon this will get all black colored, and it still works, but you know, some people don't like it after it gets too dark, but it still works, so don't worry. Now you can kind of see there's a little bit of that white jeweler's rouge got on your blade, so you want to take that off and wipe it on your pant leg or something. No, just get rid of it on a paper towel or something too is fine. Okay, now here's a couple things you don't want to do. Is you don't want to polish it like this, because you know we're going to be using a swivel knife this way to cut with. Some people don't think about that it needs to be right at the angle that it's sharpened, and so they'll think, well, I'll just go like this and and do it this way. But see, then you're not on the angle that it's sharpened. See, you're too straight up to do that. So you need to move the position to where you can hold it like this. Okay? All right. So much for polishing your blade. Now, about after you've cut about 2 or 3 inches worth of length, it's a good idea to go ahead and do that, because it keeps it nice and smooth and makes it easier for you to cut your leather. Now, another thing that we're going to go over is dampening your leather. You probably have learned this, but let's just go over it again. I've got a couple of pieces of leather here that we'll be working with. Okay, we're going to talk about 2 different ways to dampen it, and one of them is with a sponge. And so a sponge, and you know that when you take it out of your dish, you want to squeeze it a little to where it doesn't drip anymore, and then that's just about right to be putting onto your leather then. And you'll just wipe it across your leather. Okay? And the moisture will go into the leather and soften it up and get it ready for us to make marks on it. It has to be soft in order for our tools to work and make impressions in it. And also we could turn it over. We'll get a little bit more water. See, it's drippy, so just squeeze it out a little bit, and go ahead and do the back also. Now, normally when you're casing your leather, and that's what we just did, is casing our leather, you would want to case it and then put it in a plastic bag, or like a Ziploc bag in this case we're going to use, for, you know, overnight is ideal, but maybe you don't have time to do it overnight, but at least you know, a few minutes anyway. Give it a chance to kind of be in there and kind of sweat it into the middle part of your leather, and it will work a lot nicer, and your tooling will turn out a lot nicer too. So then the second way we're going to talk about dampening it is we're going to use a sprayer, and you can see this is a sprayer from Tandy Leather that works really well. And so you can see, just spray a little bit. Now you noticed probably earlier that this was quite a bit darker leather once it was damp, right? And so that's how you can kind of tell that it's damp also, is because it's darker. So we're spraying water, and you can see it's soaking up right away. We're going to turn it over and do the back a little bit too. Now, if this was real thin leather, you wouldn't need to do the back too, probably. Now, did you see how there's a little bit of pools, and you can see it kind of pooling up? And if it doesn't soak in right away, just take your finger and spread those pools out, because you don't want to make a little pool, which will make that area damper than the other part. And I think this is pretty well okay. When you use a spray thing, you usually need to have a paper towel handy and wipe up your mess that you made after you sprayed it all, or take it and spray it off to the side or something. Okay, and so now we have it pretty well ready to go. Now you notice that how thick this is, and this is a kind of a medium thickness. If you had it thinner, it would take less water, and if you had it thicker leather, it would take probably more water. You don't want to get it too wet. Now, one thing I was going to show you is, now when it's dampened, you see how soft and flexible it is. And let's look at one that is not damp yet, and look at how it's kind of stiff and not nearly as flexible as this one that is damp. Okay, and also the feel of it. When it's dry, it's a little bit warmer, about room temperature, but after you've dampened it, it's cool, and sometimes you can kind of feel feel here and know how damp it is and if it's right or not to work on. Okay, so that one's dry. We're going to put this one in a bag. This one I put in the bag a few seconds ago or minutes ago and put it's been in here a little while, so that helps a little bit, but you know, even an hour would be better. Okay, and you can kind of feel here, this one is cooler than this one because this is soaked into the leather, and this one is cooler still on the surface. Okay, I'm going to give both of these just a little bit more of a squirt because they don't feel quite damp enough. We'll just give the whole smear of it just a little bit more to start with. Then we're going to put this one back in the bag, and we're going to start, well, let's put them both back in the bag for right now. And we'll do something getting our design ready to go in order to put it onto the leather. If you're going to use some paper like we are, you'll want to have that dried off. We're going to do this little design. This is one of the first steps, and at the end it will look like this, and hopefully it'll look just like it. But anyway, so the first thing we need to do is we need to use some tracing film, and this is a clear plastic film that you can put over here so that you can see through it and see into what you're tracing, but you can write on it with a pencil also. So one thing I always do is I always mark so that we can get this centered when we're ready to use it. I always just make a little corners here on my pattern, okay, to help me get it centered. If it gets off of there, then it helps me get it centered back on there. Okay, and another thing I usually do is I usually write my name right here. We're just going to put K there, so that if I'm later on, if I'm ready to put this on my leather and I put it on backwards, I'll look and go, oh, that K's not right, so I better check it and put it on correct. So make yourself and having your name on your pattern is good, especially if you are working around others. Okay, so I can just fit it back on those little corners, and that helps me to get it on correct. Okay, so right now what I want to do is I just want to, I'm holding it with my fingers. You could tape it down here if you needed to, like this, with little pieces of tape on the corners of your there, or you could use a weight to weight it down. I have a weight here that I use sometimes, and so I'm just going to put it right there on that corner, and it'll kind of keep it in place. But you notice it moved a little, so we better get it back straight, and then that's going to help me. But I'm always going to keep this hand on there, and if you're left-handed, it would be the other hand like this. But so now I'm going to follow the lines. The best way to get all of your lines in there is to follow the whole line all the way through. Try to get it really as exact as you can get it. Okay, so we wouldn't go droop droop, and because we'd forget this. So come back in here and do that whole line, and then we're gonna do this whole line. We'll start right here. We're going to come out here like this. Okay. And you always need to get this where you can see it really well. Okay. Got off a little bit there, but I think it'll be okay. And you could fix that. You could erase it a little bit and get it back on too. But I think we'll just kind of do it like this and then try to remember to use that inside line. Okay, right here there's a dotted line. I don't know if you can see that very well, but so dotted lines you always just dot, because we're not going to cut that line. We're going to bevel it though, but we won't cut it, so you just want to dot it. Okay, the best way to check and see if you have all your lines is hold it down with your hand, lift this up a little, and then you can kind of see if you're missing any lines. Look at it here, look at it there, but always keep a hand on it in case you need to fit it back on there. Looks good. So I think we have our pattern all traced off. I don't know if you can see that real good there, but there you go. Here's our, there. You might can see it better there, that way. Okay. All right, now we're going to use this. We're going to set it over here while we get a one of these damp pieces of leather out that we had gotten ready for us. And either one of them would be okay now. Okay, I'm gonna feel it. This is pretty thick leather, and I kind of feel like it needs to be a little damper. It's still a little stiff, and this was pretty thick leather, so we're gonna move that out of the way so I don't get it all wet. And then we're going to give it another little drink of water. Okay? Gonna clean up our mess here that we made. Okay? See, there's a little pool of water, and just spread that out like that. Okay, now this is not the same size as that, so we're just going to have to do a little guessing and trying to get it right in the center. And with our little corners here, if this was cut exactly to the right size, which if we wanted to, we could do it like this and fit it right on there, because this is meant to be able to use two. Should we just do that? Okay, let's just do that. Okay, so we're going to put this design on right here. We know it's on right because I can see my K, right? And we see that it's right side up there. Okay, there again, if you have trouble hanging on to this, you could tape it down, but sometimes tape doesn't really work the best. But if you use something to kind of weight it down on one side and use your fingers here, I usually go like that, kind of like that. We're going to use a tracing tool, and it has this tracing tool has a tracing end, and then it has a modeling tool, little spoon on the other end. We're going to use this tracing end, and we just press on the lines. We're going to start right here, basically do just like when we were tracing it onto the paper. Okay, we're pressing on it, but not super hard. We just need to be able to see it good, but it doesn't have to be so deep that we cut through the paper. Now I'm going to hold this and see, you can see that there's a line that left, and that'll help us to be able to trace or to cut our lines. Okay, so we're gonna go over our lines just like this. And that's a little bit close, isn't it? So I have my hand on this so I can scoot that over a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to come back and put this on a little bit tighter there. Okay. And you just follow the lines as careful as you can. Right here, you're just lightly going to put that those dotted lines. That just helps you to know the curve and to keep it in the right spot. Okay, and you have to kind of think about where you already been and where you need to go. See, I got off of that just a little, so I'm gonna fix that a little bit. And it won't always be perfect, but try to get it as good as possible. So now I'm gonna hold down on this pretty tight. I'm gonna lift this up here and see if I missed any lines. This is a pretty small design, so it's pretty easy not to miss lines. But if it were a big pattern, it's likely you would have missed some. You'd put it back down, you'd fix it, and go forward. Okay, now we want to take a look at that, and you just take a general look at it. And I know I had a little trouble going around here, and see how it has kind of a flat spot right there. So before I start cutting or anything, I'm going to fix that a little bit and make it rounded so that we don't do it in the wrong place. Alright, now we've traced it on. The next thing we want to do is we're going to cut with a swivel knife those lines so that they can be in the leather, so to speak. Okay? Now you hold your swivel knife like this, and this is the swivel part of it. You're gonna use your thumb and your middle finger probably to you know, twist this or swivel it, because it's a swivel knife. And here's your blade. Okay, so it's gonna tip forward a little bit, and you're gonna press your finger down. If you hold this right into your right where you bend your finger, that's a good place to hold it to get good pressure. If you hold it up here, everything's all in there tight, and you don't have good control of it sometimes. Okay, and so then I use this finger, this ring finger here, over here to kind of balance myself, and then I put usually the palm of my hand there. I kind of balance it there too. So then we're going to push down on it. Okay, I get to right here and my hand's a little uncomfortable, so I'm going to move my leather. And that's kind of, when your hand's uncomfortable, you're not going to do a good job. So, now I'm pulling it toward myself, which is a lot easier to control it if you pull it toward yourself. Start at the point like that, and go like this. You know, go clear in. Remember how we talked about the whole lines? We wouldn't want to go here and then over here, because we'd probably forget to do that one. So we want to do the whole thing in order to make it all work. Okay, you can do it from the tip in, or you can do this and from inside and go out, whichever you want to do. And just so I didn't have to turn it again, I'm doing it one way that way and one way this way. Okay, and so that you can see this a little better too there. Okay, and now we turn, and okay, and right here my hand's starting to be uncomfortable, so I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to turn it. I'm carefully going to set it, because it's kind of on a curve, so we got to be kind of careful there, and then pull it like this. Okay, now you may have to stop more often, and after a little practice, this gets a lot easier. Okay, now we're gonna stick here and kind of come over here and follow there. And you notice I got off the line just a little, but it's not going to show up too much. Okay, we're going to kind of do this slow. We're not hurrying because if we hurry, sometimes we just make a lot of mistakes. Okay, I've been holding it like this. Now I'm going to switch it over and use the other side a little bit, and then I'm going to polish it again. Okay, so we're going to start over here. And my hand's getting uncomfortable, so I'm going to move it. I'm kind of starting to the side. Do you see how I'm going that way? I kind of do that to so I can get farther around. There. And I'm going on the inside of that line because I think I got the line a little wrong. You can correct if you've drawn it on wrong, you can kind of correct it a little bit. And then we're gonna do this little line. Be careful. It's better to stop before the line than to cut into the line and then cut into your design some more. Okay, I'm gonna scoot this aside and bring my jeweler's rouge over here, and I'm going to go ahead and polish it one more time so that it goes nice and smooth. It just sure helps to have a nice clean cut in your leather. Okay, and then it's got little stuff on it, so I'm gonna get that off and wipe it off on something. Okay, then we're back to here. I'm kind of uncomfortable here, so I better go ahead. Otherwise, I might just mess it up after I think I've done a good job, and it was only a little bit, but my hand was uncomfortable and I probably was going to make a mistake. So I oftentimes start off going kind of off to the side so that I have time to kind of turn that like that. Okay, now just so you know, I've been doing this many years, so it won't be quite this easy when you first start, and that's okay because it'll just take it a little while for you to get used to it. Are we going to cut this dotted line? No, we're not. We don't ever cut dotted lines. Dotted lines are there for us to remember that we will bevel that line, but we're not going to cut it. Okay, on our pattern. Now, we've done this very first step. Now, we're going to move to this next step, which shows us how to use the camouflage tool. Okay, but I'll show you on here instead of on the paper. Okay, so we want to do this right up this stem. Okay, and we're gonna kind of tilt it. We're gonna start right here, and do you see how we've kind of put that in there where it fits right on that line? And we're just barely gonna, this first one, we're just barely gonna tap. Now we've got the tool where, you know, I didn't talk about this, but one end of the tool has the design on it, and the other end of the tool has a place that you can hit with your mallet. And this is your mallet. And this is a rawhide mallet. They work really nice. And so we're going to put this on here. I'm going to hold it right about here. And I know it makes it hard for you to see because I'm right-handed and such. But so tip it just a little bit and then just hit it a little. Do you see how we just see that a little bit? And then we're going to move it. Here's the edge of the design, just move it a teeny bit more, keep kind of the same angle on it, and okay, now you're going to want to hold your tool, see, so right here's the end, so we're going to go about that, just a teeny bit past the end. The important part about this tool is that you make it the same distance between, okay, and we're going to want to tip it back. We don't want these little points to show. They're called the heel. We don't want them to show, and so we're going to tip it back a little bit. You see how it just shows then in the middle more so? Now that we can put the whole thing in here, right here's the edge, so we're going to go up just a little bit, and we're going to tip it back just a little so we don't get those heels showing, and it should be right centered that way. Okay, you see? There it goes. Now we have to think about this. Are we going to try to get 2 in here or just 1? So here you can see it a little bit better. If we put this here, we can probably go ahead and get another one, I think. So we're going to turn this just a little bit, and because this is rounded, so we're going to have this side a little narrower and this side a little more out there, because we're going in a circle kind of thing. Whoops. All right, and I do think we have room for 1 more. So we're gonna try to keep the same spacing. There. All right, so that's the camouflage tool. On this particular pattern, it goes pretty quick because it just has a little bit of camouflage. All right, then the next tool that we're going to do, so see, this is the second step of camouflage tool. Now we're going to do the pear shader. Do you see these shaded areas here? And we do that with the pear shader, and it's we're going to use a little checked pear shader, and you can kind of see how it's shaped like a pear, and it has a fat side and a skinny side. So I usually turn this around, and I usually start like and have the end of this flower facing me, and then I try to work away from myself with the fat part toward me. Okay, now I'm going to just press on this so you can kind of see where I'm putting it. Do you see this little area right here is real important. You don't want to get it so close up here that it's up by the line. You need to have a little bit of area here, and we'll use that same space of area there and there, and it'll look real nice. And we're going to go toward right here. Okay, so the first, we're going to put that one right there and have this pointed right to there. Now I hope you can see there. Okay, you see, we put, now you won't want to hit that any harder than that. This is a walking tool, but I usually, when you're first starting, I usually have you move about half and hit it again, and about half, hit it again, and you can, right when you get to that dotted line, you want to stop. Now you can see that that's a little rough there. So now this is where the walking part comes in, is you just, a little tiny tap, and just move it along. Maybe go twice even. So you'll want it deeper here and less deep when it hits the line. So you got that one, and remember how we're trying to keep this space right here the same over here too. So we want to put this, and then we'll go right in between here. You see, we just did one, and now we're going to move it just a half and do a little lighter and then a little lighter. Then we're going to come back the same place we started, hit it a little bit harder because you want it a little deeper there on the end, and then lighter, lighter, lighter. When you're smoothing things, you don't have to hit very hard. Okay, now we've got to get this space right here the same as this space. That's important. Okay. Do you see how we got it? Okay. And then a little lighter, a little lighter, and a little lighter. Then we're going to come back and we're going to hit this a little harder to get it a little deeper, and then a little lighter. Okay, so we got the middle done. Now on this one, we're going to want to do the same thing. We're going to start about right here, and we're going to go right into there. Okay, do you notice where I'm holding? You need to hold your tool about right here. Okay, if you hold it down here, you can't see what you're doing, and you don't have as good a control. And if you hold it up here, you're going to hit your fingers, and you don't have good control. So right about here is a really good place to hold the tool. So if you were left-handed, you would hold it just like that. But I'm right-handed, so I'm probably going to get in your picture. But so do you see, I kind of did that light because I wanted to just kind of break a little trail here to get it in the right spot. Do you see how I got it pretty much where I wanted it? Okay, so now I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit it a little harder here at the end, and then I'm going to go lighter, lighter, lighter. Alright? And we're going to do the same thing over here. You know, we're thinking about this line here too, because we have to, sometimes we have to kind of go over that just a little in order to get this right where we want it, right here. So, okay. It won't hurt if you go over it just a little bit. The important thing is though, is you'll want to have this space right here. That makes it look really nice and clean. Okay, you see we got one. Now we're going to move it a half and another. You see, it looks a little rough, so now we're going to go back and we're going to hit it a little harder, lighter, lighter. So by the time it touches down here on this line, you almost can't see it. Alright? Then we have two little leaves we're going to tool. So right here, I'm going to, the same thing, you want to have this same little space. You know, you don't want to get your pear shader too close to the edge. You want to have this same little space right here too. So you kind of get it positioned to where it's kind of in the middle of that space. Okay, we're going to hit it, and see, you can see it looks like it's going off the wrong direction, doesn't it? But what you'll do then is the next one, you'll start tipping it a little this way, and you're going to hit it light. Okay, you see how that kind of brought that around? And then here, you're also going to hit it very light to kind of fade it out. Then you're going to come back right here where you started, and you're going to go kind of slow and not too fast, so that it'll be nice and smooth like that. If you try to go too far at a time, it's going to get all not smooth. It'll have corners and edges on it. Okay, now we're going to come in here on this one, and the same thing. See, we kind of feel like we're getting really close to the edge, but because this is rounded, you can kind of tap it a little and then have your deepest part here, and then light, 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 and just follow down here like this. Okay, so we're gonna do this kind of light. Then the biggest part of that leaf we're gonna do kind of deeper, and then we're gonna turn it a little more and try to stay right in the center of that. Gonna go light, light, lighter, and lightest. See how it kind of faded out? Now we want to have it all a little deeper, so we're going to come back on the same exact trail and the same thing. Just move a little at a time, and later on you will learn to what they call walk it. And so walking it will be going like this and just moving it as you go. But it takes a while to be able to do that. Okay, so don't rush it, because you kind of need to get it in the right place first. Okay, so I'm looking it over, and these little flecks came from, see, it's kind of rubbing off of here. So sometimes you just need to blow them off and brush them off of your leather and such. All right, we have our pear shading done. See right here, that's the step right here where we did the pear shading. So got that done. The next step is the beveler, and you can see the difference between here and here is we're going to make the flower stand out and kind of mush around those edges. We do that with a beveler, and I will show you how that works. Okay, we used a checked pear shader, so we're also going to use a checked beveler. Meaning checked means it has a little bit of a texture on it of little tiny checks, where sometimes you use a smooth one. Now this pear shader, you can see, is smooth, and so you could use it too. Sometimes it's harder to see the burnish or the color, and so sometimes I like to use checks so it shows up a little bit better. Okay, and today we're using checks, but sometimes you can use smooth too. All right, now with this tool, you're going to fit it. You want this flower to stand out, so you're going to go basically around it. So see, we're going to mush down along here to make this flower stand out. So we're going to go ahead and start right here at this kind of little corner here. And we're going to just tap it a little. Do you see how that happened there? Can you see that good? And it squished down this side of it and left this side up. Okay. Now we're going to move this, not the whole way, because we don't want to have a little chunk left. So we're going to move it 3/4 of the way, or even a half. And we're going to hit it again. You see, about the same. Now do you notice that I'm not hitting it super hard? Because this first time around, I always call it kind of break and trail. Okay, I'm going to try to get it where you can see it better, but then I can't see it very good. Do you see how we're doing it like that? And then after I've gone about an inch, I come back, or sometimes I even just go back the other way, and I just do the same amount, and see how I'm putting it exactly where I want it before I hit it. There. And see, if you see a little place that it's kind of sticking up, then you can smooth that down and such. Anyway, so I'm going to kind of get over here where maybe you can kind of see how that's working. You probably need to have your tool standing straight up and down. Do you notice there how I'm getting some little lines? And so when we come back, put this right over the top of those little lines, and that'll make them go away a little bit. The reason I like to, I kind of say that I get my depth doing it at 2 different tries. The first one, and then come back and do the second one. Okay, so that way, if you get it too deep first, it makes little marks in it. So see, we're about got this whole line. Now I'm going to just come right back. The reason I just come back and work on it right away is because I don't want to forget to come back and fix it. I want to have it just real nice when I leave it, so I don't have to come back to it. Okay? So I'm going to go a little faster now, so that this, because this step is actually the one that takes the longest. It's actually the step also that makes it look the best, does the most work for your design. I'm holding this kind of way back here, and I don't know why I'm doing that, because it's better if you hold it about right here. Okay, and then you can kind of fix any little spots that you see. Okay, now we got that little leaf. Then I'm going to come back here and start to go all the way around on that one. That'll keep me from forgetting this one, because this is an easy line to forget over here. I did about an inch, and see it's kind of lumpy looking, so I'm going to come back and with little tiny light things just get it nice and smooth. Then I'm done with that line. I don't have to come back and fix it later, because I fixed it already. You notice how I use my little finger to kind of hold and brace on that? That way I have a little bit more, I can get my tool right where I want it better. It holds it just right. Now do you notice that it's a little rough looking there? I wouldn't want to leave it that way. I would want to just come right back over it, put your tool right on that little mark, to kind of smooth it down. Then if you see any place more, you can fix it. Okay? Now, right now might be a really good time for me to go ahead and turn this a little bit and bevel along here. Now you're going to be checking on here to see on this to see what side of the line to bevel on. Like right here, we went around like this, okay, and such. Or no, we haven't done that. We started here, didn't we? Okay, but you can tell on this pattern, the side that has kind of shaded is where you bevel. So when we come to this little line, we're going to bevel all the way around there. And this is kind of confusing sometimes, especially when you get in the middle of this design. And so take your time to understand it a little bit. And so we're going to I'm going to take this weight and put it on here a little bit so that it holds still a little bit better for me. You can use a weight like that, or you can use even a piece of tape on the other side to tape it down to your piece of rock if you need to get it to hold still. Okay, so did that little bit, and then I'm going to continue. It's better if you don't do the whole line sometimes at once, because you'll forget to come back and make it good the whole way. Okay, so we have the stem done on both sides. Now I think that this might be a good time for us to do all the way around on the bottom of that flower, because there again, if you don't do the whole thing at once, then sometimes you forget part of it, or you get it on the wrong side. We want the flower to stand out, so we're going to go around the whole flower basically. Okay, there's my first run. Now I'm going to kind of pick this up and go a little faster, just so it doesn't take so long. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and start out here on the tip on this last piece, just for fun. So do you see it? Looks a little lumpy, so it's a good thing we're going to go back over it, right? This is the one step that takes more time to practice on. This and the swivel knife it is the two steps that really make a difference on how it looks. Okay, since we're right here, let's just go ahead and go around the corner and be sure and take this line right into the end of it. Okay, if you stop here and then head up and go up on here, you're gonna forget this, and we don't want to forget it. So there, turned out nice. Okay, may as well do the end of that middle petal right now. Okay. Do you notice I just turn my work to wherever my hand is comfortable? If you don't do that, sometimes you end up having your hand uncomfortable, and then you make a mistake. Okay, and I'd like to go to the end of that, but right here my hand's starting to get uncomfortable, so I should stop, come back, go over it, smooth it down so that I'm done with that section, and then kind of turn it to where my hand is comfortable again, and finish it. Don't work with your hand uncomfortable. You'll make a mistake almost every time. Okay, now it looks like the next best thing would be for me to start right here and just do this line here, right? Okay, kind of lumpy. Better fix it. You notice I'm getting pretty deep, but I'm doing it in 2 tries, and that'll keep it smoother. If you try to get all of the depth in 1 try, sometimes it just doesn't, you get marks on it. Okay, now since it's all sitting here and I'm pretty prepared right now just to go ahead and do this. You might have to check your pattern sometimes on these inside lines, because sometimes they're hard to understand. In this, I know that I'm going to bevel where the seeds are going to go, and I know the seeds are going to be right here in this little seed pod thing. So we'll just go ahead and bevel them like this. Okay, we're going to turn it a little bit and do the other side. Okay, got it nice and smooth. Since my hand's right here and I know I have to bevel this dotted line, I'm just going to go ahead and do it right here. So you're going to just use the line as a guide and use a light, just lightly follow that line. You see how I'm doing that? And it looks kind of still dotted because you know, you don't have a line cut there, but this kind of breaks a trail for you to follow. You see there? Okay, now I'm going to just go back over it the same way we've been doing everything. And just got to be a little bit careful not to do it really super deep. And now we may even want to go back over it one more time. Depends on how it looks to you. I think it looks fine to me. Okay, there's only a couple of places left that we have to do. You know, remember we already did the stem. We just have a little place here and a little place here. So we want this little leaf to show up, so we're gonna bevel this little spot. And see, that leaves a little triangular space there that we will put the background in, and we'll kind of mash that all down. And then we have one more line right here. Can you see that one? And okay, there we go. All right, do we have all of our lines done? It kind of looks like it. Take your finger and just kind of figure out. It looks like it. Now this is a good time to look over our leather. Do you notice here how it has a darker color right here in the middle? And it's lighter around the edges. And that's because it dried out a little bit more on the edges, because you have the air gets to a little bit more. So in order to have it the same dampness all the way around for the next steps, we're very lightly going to just kind of do it around the edges like so. Okay? And add a little bit of water. We don't want to add too much because it really is just about perfect to work on. Okay, but we still have a couple of steps to go. So so if you get any little pools of water, you'll want to, you know, wipe those down a little. Okay, so we just did the beveling on this step right here. Now on this step, we're going to add in the seeds, and we're going to put the veiner in. Right here's the veiner. Right here we put some veiner, and we're going to put some veiner right here in up the center, and then we're going to put seeds in there. Okay, so shall we do the seeds first? Let's do the veiner first, because that's what's handy right here. Okay, so it shows this veiner. We're gonna put it right up like this, and you kind of do it lightly, not real deep, and but not too light. Okay, so it's right in the kind of the center of this. We're gonna start about right here. Okay, so, and you'll want to have each of these about the same space apart. So we're going to tip it back a little so that these little points here don't really show up much. We're mostly going to have it to where just the rounded part shows up more. Okay, do you see? And we didn't get it super deep because this is kind of a little bit of just some texture. It's not really gonna be deep. So we want the same space that between our beveled line and there. We want to go the same space right here, and we're gonna go straight up there again. We're gonna tip it again. Okay, and then we're gonna do the same thing, and we're gonna do the same thing one more time, as light as we can. See how that kind of fades it on out. Okay, then to get the sides done, we're gonna come the same distance from there. Do you see how we're tipping it to the side a little bit? Okay, so we want to tip it to the side, and you want this to be right in against the edge there. Move it that same amount of space. Okay, and you're going to go lighter, lighter, lighter. Okay, same thing over here then. About the same distance away. We're going to tip it so it only does half of the tool. And lighter, 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 lighter. Okay, do you see how that kind of almost makes it look like little rays? All right. The other place that we're going to use this veiner is we're going to put it right along here. Okay. Now this is where I always say V is for veiner, because when you have this placed correctly, you should see a little V right here. Can you see the little V? Okay, and so you want to keep turning it so that you see a V, and you're going to go up along there. Now, if you have this out here too far, this little space here is going to make an L. I always say V is for veiner, but L is for loser. Don't be a loser. So don't put it out here. Bring it on up here and make a V right here. That needs to come to a V, and then it'll be in the right spot. Okay, so we're going, and we have to tip it this way, so that, because we don't want to see the other side of that tool touch anything. So it's just going to be a half of a tool mark. Do you see how that was? Now we're going to move it just like we did over here, about that same space, maybe about an 1/8 of an inch, and we're going to keep that same V. Do you see there? And then we're going to keep turning it just a little bit so that we don't get that L going on. We want to keep the V. Usually I'm on the side that you're on, and so I can see better, so I may be getting these a little off. And you can put them as far close apart as you want. The important part is to have them the same. It's better if you have these a little closer. You can get away with the camouflage tool being a little farther apart, but these are usually a little closer together. Alright, and that's all there is with the veiner. But it sure prettied this up a little bit, didn't it? Kind of decorated it. Now we're going to do a cedar. Now to do the cedar, I always start with the end of the flower looking at me, and then you can take this. I'm going to turn it so you can see what I'm seeing, and so you take this and you put it right in that edge, and you're going to put one here, and then you're going to put one here, and they're just going to touch. Do you see how we're doing that? And it looks like we have room for one more. Okay, so those fit in there just really good. Then the next row is going to go in here and just lay right in beside there. Okay, and then the next row you're probably only going to get 1, 2 in there. Okay, so I'm just pressing those in so you can see what we're trying to do. But sometimes if you want to press them in to see if that's going to work, that's a good little thing. Okay, but I'm going to have to turn this so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, and I'm going to tip it just a little bit in there so that it's deeper. Can you see how it's deeper on this upper side than it is on the other side a little bit? Whoops, missed. Alright, we got one row in. Now we're going to come over here and start the same thing and just have them touching. Do you see how they touch each other, or almost touch each other, but they don't want to cut into each other? Okay, and then I think there's room for one there and one there. Now, down in that little point, you could put another one, or you could just kind of tip it just a little and just put a little bit, just this side of it, because you don't want it to cut into there, okay? So just barely put a little teeny bit of it into there. Okay, if you do make a little boo-boo and stuff, you could come back with your beveler and kind of fix that up a little like this. Alright, did you notice something I just noticed? We missed two little places with the pear shader. I should have noticed that before, but there should be a little indent here and a little indent there. And I shouldn't miss that, because that's my favorite spot to do, because it really just fits in here so nice. See how this fits in here really nice right there. Okay, but we're not going to do just, well, we are going to hit it once. We're got it right in the center. Do you see how we got it there? But we're not going to leave it at that. Okay, we're going to fade it out just a little bit here. Do you see how we faded it out? Then we're going to come back in here and hit it again a little bit and fade it out some more, because we need it to be a little deeper. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing here. I always keep the fat part toward me and go away from myself so I can see where I'm going. Put it right in the center. Do a little bit, make sure you got it in the right spot, and then fade it out just a little bit, then come back and hit it a little harder and fade it out. Okay, see how we got it faded out there? Okay, the next thing we need to do is do the background. And the background, so the backgrounder is a little triangular shaped tool, and it's meant for the pointed part is meant to go into the pointed part like here, and then you can kind of work there. Then you can turn it, put the pointed part in here and work here, and then put it in here, and then kind of smash the middle down. Okay, so we're going to put the pointed part in there and stay real close to the edge, but we don't want to overlap the edge. Can you see where it is now? And then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to put this pointed part right up into there along that edge. Okay, and we're going to turn it. We're going to put the pointed part in there right along that edge. Okay, and then we're going to put this also in that pointed part. Okay, now you can see we have it all along the edge done, but we have some space in the middle. So then you can take your tool and hold it straight up and down and just move it around to mash that all down. Try to get it all the same depth there. Okay, we're going to do the same thing here. See, we're going to go into the tip there with these two, and then we'll go into the tip there with these two, and then fill in. Okay. Got one in the point. Then we're going to go to the other side and get one more into the point. Then I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to put there, and there, and then all we have left is a little bit right there in the middle. So I'm going to hit that and that, and it's a little rough looking, so I'm going to turn this just a little bit, and I'm lightly going to touch it just to smooth it up. And then I think it's smooth enough, don't you think? Okay, the next step is the decorative cuts. And sometimes when you're first starting out with decorative cuts, you know, as I turned this way, I saw that this needed to be smoothed out just a little bit more. So I'm going to do that. We don't hit very hard when we're smoothing. Okay? So here's the decorative cuts. You can see they're little decorative cuts to kind of make everything, the flow of everything go good. Okay? It's like your signature on your work. It is kind of one of the steps that's a little trickier and you have to practice it a little bit more, but I'm going to show you how a little bit. Sometimes when I first start out, I go ahead and draw my lines in. Like right here, I'm going to, I could probably do it without it, but so that you understand what I'm doing, I'm going to have a little bit of a curve on the top and it's going to come straight down. And then I'm going to come and now I don't want these lines to come together. They need to, I don't think you can see those very well, but I'll go ahead and cut them so that you can see them. So I'm going to turn my swivel knife a little bit this way and turn it and pull it down toward me, okay, and come right down to the just right where the seeds are. A good idea to do before you do swivel knife cuts like that is to go ahead and polish your blade up a little bit so that it goes through your leather a little smoother. Now another thing I did notice with this is this was perfect dampness for the background tool, but it's a little dry for swivel knife. So I'm going to just give it 2 little shots there and let it soak in a second or two. Okay, and then so then I'm going to go ahead with these. Now I don't want these to touch at the bottom, but I want them to come in right beside each other. I kind of call this the race car thing. So here you are with a little race car coming down here, and this guy's coming in beside you, and you don't want him to crash you, right? So he's got to pull right in beside you, and that's kind of how these cuts are. Is you want to pull right down in beside. Don't make a crash. Okay. Whoops. I kind of cut a little low on that, so I'm going to use my fingernail and kind of fix that. Okay. Now you can draw these in, or I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. Sometimes it's easier to cut than to draw them in. Do you see how we have a little bit of a kind of a curl on it, and then it comes down straight. This is something you'll want to practice before you do it. Okay, so we're doing it there. Then right here we're gonna kind of go with the flow of it. We're gonna make a kind of a larger little cut like this, and then a little shorter one, and have them kind of coming toward here. Okay, on this stem we're gonna just poke it in like this and just pull it out right on each of those little where it has a little raise, and we're going to go right down the center and lighter, lighter, and lighter. Okay, we're just barely gonna, all right. Then we have these little leaves. You kind of go actually around how your pear shading goes. So we're gonna do this like so, and then I kind of start to the side so I can go farther, and I go like so. Okay, now I kind of got these coming right out together, and so it's better to have one a little farther than the other. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing here. We're gonna just okay. Let's see, I think that's all of the decorative cuts that we have. we pretty much have them. Now, as you can see right here, I kind of skimmed and cut that just a little bit wrong. So I'm going to take my modeling tool and kind of see if I can tuck that back in there. There. All right. Okay. So hopefully this and this look similar. They're always going to look a little different. Okay, but they should look similar. And yours will look different than mine, and yours will look different than somebody else's. But okay. I'd say any questions, but that probably won't work either, huh? All right. We have that little design done.